Chapter 91 The Little Girl in Red, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhuqiu Lianzhu also looked at Chu Jianqiu in surprise. She knew Chu Jianqiu much better than the average person, and knew that Chu Jianqiu's strength could not be judged just by his superficial cultivation. After all, the strength of a warrior with heaven-level bloodline and a supreme martial body cannot be guessed based on common sense. But he never expected that Chu Jianqiu was so powerful that he could easily block the punch of the little girl in red. The little girl in red looked Chu Jianqiu up and down. Zhuqiu Lianzhu, this little lover, was extraordinary. Chu Jianqiu's performance immediately aroused the competitive spirit of the little girl in red. She did not believe that she, a direct disciple of the seventh peak, could not compare to Zhuqiu Lianzhu, who was several levels below her. Lover, the little girl in red stretched her pink fist forward again, increasing her strength to 80%. Chu Jianqiu felt the small fist in his palm shake, and an even more powerful force surged over him. Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but cursed secretly in his heart, this little girl must be crazy, she's still here. The punch he just blocked from the little girl in red seemed easy on the surface, but in fact he had used all his strength. Even the seventh palm of the 7 stacks of furious waves. Zhuqiu Lianzhu slapped the little girl in red's little fist away, rescuing Chu Jianqiu from that terrifying power. If the little girl in red continued to act recklessly, I'm afraid Chu Jianqiu would really get hurt. Under her hands. Tang Ningxin, you're itchy, aren't you? Zhuqiu Lianzhu said coldly, looking at the little girl in red. What are you pulling at? Do you think I'm really afraid of you? The little girl in red didn't give in, put her hands on her hips, glared at Zhuqiu Lianzhu and said, You've been eating at our 7th peak all day long. You owe me the food. Have you paid the fee? Hearing what the little girl in red said, Zhuqiu Lianzhu was stunned instantly. The little girl in red grabbed her weak spot. The 4th peak is far less lively than the 7th peak, so Zhuqiu Lianzhu often goes to the 7th peak, especially when eating, and the person in charge of food at the 7th peak is the youngest disciple, Uncle's 7th master. The little girl in red couldn't help but snorted proudly when she saw that she had grasped Zhuqiu Lianzhu's lifeline. How many of these spiritual talismans do you have on your junior brother? Zhuqiu Lianzhu stopped talking nonsense with the little girl in red and asked, raising the escape talisman in his hand. What does senior sister want to do? Chu Jianqiu glanced at Zhuqiu Lianzhu and asked. What else can I do? Naturally, I want to pick the heaven's black dragon grass. Zhuqiu Lianzhu's eyebrows slightly raised. With this escape talisman, her chances of picking the heaven's black dragon grass will be greatly increased. This method won't work. It's too dangerous. Chu Jianqiu shook his head and said. He naturally guessed what Zhuqiu Lianzhu was thinking. He wanted to use the escape talisman to move to the side of the Tianji black dragon grass and wait until it was picked. After taking the Tianji black dragon grass, he can escape through the escape talisman. Why doesn't it work? Zhuqiu Lianzhu couldn't help but said with some displeasure. The Tianji black dragon grass was related to her master's life and death, and she would take it no matter how big the risk was. We have just used the escape talisman in front of that monster. It will definitely be on guard against this and will not give us the chance to pick the Tianji black dragon grass. If you don't believe it, senior sister, please take a look. As Chu Jianqiu said this, his figure suddenly disappeared and appeared next to the Tianji black dragon grass. BSP, as soon as his figure appeared, the monster's huge claws came over as fast as lightning. Chu Jianqiu used an escape talisman again, escaping from the monster's claws and returned to the left Zhuqiu Lianzhu's side. When Zhuqiu Lianzhu saw this scene, he couldn't help but fell silent. The perception of the sea transformation realm great monster was originally extremely powerful, and this monster was obviously not an ordinary sea transformation realm monster. It had extremely high bloodline. He wanted to avoid it. Its perception, at that critical moment, winning the time to pick the Tianji black dragon grass is basically an impossible task. Furthermore, even if we can successfully harvest the Tianji black dragon grass, once the demonic beast is no longer restrained by the heavenly Ji black dragon grass, it will definitely kill us without any scruples. By then, the people here will have how many people can escape alive under this crazy monster. Chu Jianqiu looked at Lianzhu and said calmly. When Lianzhu heard this, he suddenly broke into a cold sweat. Before, she only wanted to pick the Tianji black dragon grass and did not consider so many things at all. Now that she thought about it carefully, it turned out that she and others had ignored a fatal issue. Even if they succeeded in harvesting the heavenly black dragon grass, who could escape the pursuit of this sea transformation realm monster and successfully send the heavenly black dragon grass back to the sect? If everyone is killed by the claws of this monster, even if they pick the Tianji black dragon grass, it will be of no use. Thinking of this, Lianzhu could not help but feel despair. His face turned pale, his body swayed, and he almost lost his balance. Could it be that he had to watch helplessly as his master became increasingly poisoned and eventually passed away, but could do nothing? Lianzhu raised his head with a pale face and looked at the calm-looking Chu Jianqiu. His heart suddenly moved. Since Chu Jianqiu had thought about these problems, he still entered the secret realm and came to Xianlong Mountain. Could it be that he thought of a solution? Lianzhu couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope in his heart. He looked at Chu Jianqiu and said, "What can junior brother do?" "Of course there is a way, but it requires the cooperation of senior sister Zhuqiu and all the brothers and sisters," Chu Jianqiu said with a slight smile. If he hadn't thought of a solution, why would he have run in? Could he have died by running here? When Lianzhu heard this, he couldn't help but said with great joy, "Junior brother, just tell us whatever you need us to do. If they dare to disobey, senior sister has many ways to make them obey." As he said that, he glanced around with cold eyes. Those strong men who were usually high on the ranking list of inner disciples couldn't help but feel a chill rising from the bottom of their hearts when they came into contact with this cold gaze. This female devil is famous even among her direct disciples, and no one dares to offend her, let alone the inner disciples like them. The strong men in these inner sects couldn't help but wailed in their hearts. It seemed that the strong man couldn't escape this time, especially Bufeiyue and Yan Junbai. Their hearts were filled with despair. They never expected that Lianzhu would appear here. If they knew that Lianzhu was here, they would not come here even if they were killed. At this time, they all wanted to die. How could they think of uniting with other inner disciples to murder Chu Jianqiu? They were sure that Lianzhu and Chu Jianqiu would not let them go. They would take advantage of this opportunity to wait, for they will inevitably be treated as cannon fodder and sent to death. Zhao Gaoqi and Ji Zhixin were fighting, wanting to turn around and run away, but under Lianzhu's power, they did not have the courage. Chapter 92 Arrangement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although the little girl in red did not deal with Lianzhu, she did not argue with Lianzhu on this matter. She secretly entered the Xianxia secret realm this time to obtain the Tianji black dragon grass in order to treat Cui Yayan. And Gong Harang, although the little girl in red is young, she has a very deep affection for the Xianjian sect. She is willing to take risks for the sake of the sect's justice. Junior brother Chu, if you have any requests, just ask us, and we will try our best to cooperate. Tan Yoxin lost no time in expressing her position. At this time, two direct disciples, Chu Jianqiu and Lianzhu, were present at the fourth peak. As long as he established a relationship with them, his chances of entering the fourth peak would be greatly improved. How could Tan Yoxin miss such a good opportunity? Hearing this, Lianzhu glanced at Tan Yoxin with a look of satisfaction in her eyes. This woman was quite sensible. Chu Jianqiu glanced at the hundreds of disciples gathered at the foot of the mountain and said to Lianzhu, "Except for the necessary people, let everyone else leave here first." After Lianzhu heard this, he ordered the disciples to leave without saying a word. Except for the 20 or so people left behind, all the others were driven away. Lianzhu understood that Chu Jianqiu was thinking about the lives of these people. Once he collected the Tianji black dragon grass, the monster would go crazy and start killing people. Not only would these people be useless here, but they would be useless. Throwing his own life, these are almost all elites from the inner sect of the Xianjian sect. Once they suffer heavy casualties at the hands of this sea-forming monster, the Xianjian sect's vitality will be severely damaged. and it will be even more impossible for the sect to stop the blood evil sect from collecting blood. The mission of the evil demon liquid. Those disciples didn't know what was going on and drove them away when they saw Lianzhu's unreasonable behavior. Although they did not dare to disobey due to Lianzhu's lust, they were full of resentment on Chu Jianqiu's head. Because Lianzhu drove them away after listening to Chu Jianqiu's words. "Ma Dan, where did this trash come from? I'm doing well here, why should I leave? I'm a loser, but if I get close to a big tree like Lianzhu, I have to show off my power or show off my presence. What the hell, what's going on with Lianzhu? How could he fall in love with this kind of trash? I'm so talented, but I have to be 100 times better than that pretty boy. She didn't even notice that. Not very good. If one day I meet this pretty boy alone, I must teach him how to behave. He is really too arrogant. Does this Xianlong mountain belong to his family?" That with Lianzhu's level of cultivation, he would naturally be able to hear these discussions, and he would immediately become angry and want to give some lessons to those who were gossiping. These people are really well-intentioned and considerate of their lives. Not only do they not appreciate it, but they speak rudely. When the little girl in red saw Lianzhu's angry look, she couldn't help but feel proud. "Lianzhu, you also have this day. You always bully others." When Zhao Gaoqi and Ji Zhixin heard Chu Jianqiu's words, they immediately felt like they were being amnestied. They thought that Chu Jianqiu would take the opportunity to retaliate and use them as cannon fodder to attract the sea transformation realm monster. Now after hearing Chu Jianqiu's words, he immediately turned around and left, neatly and without any hesitation, even ignoring their bosses, Big Step and Yan Junbai, but Bufeiyue and Yan Junbai looked ashen. With their realm strength, they were naturally left to deal with the sea transformation realm monster together. Looking at the disciples who left at this time, they felt extremely envious. For the first time, they felt that their own realm cultivation had become a burden to them. In the past, they were full of pride for their ranking on the inner disciple ranking list, but today, they wished that their names were not included in the inner disciple ranking list. When those disciples were far away from Xianlong Mountain, Lianzhu looked at Chu Jianqiu and said, "What should we do next?" Chu Jianqiu didn't answer, but silently took off the bag on his back and took out strange things one after another. Lianzhu looked at the strange things and couldn't help being surprised. These strange things turned out to be array discs. Although Reizhu didn't know much about the formation, he still recognized that these were the bases for arranging the formation discs. Lianzhu couldn't help but be shocked as he watched Chu Jianqiu methodically arrange the array discs in mysterious directions to form a mysterious formation. Looking at this junior fellow student who was not at a high level, Lianzhu suddenly felt that the Chu Jianqiu in front of him was extremely strange and mysterious. She thought she knew Chu Jianqiu well enough before, but now she realized that her understanding of Chu Jianqiu was less than the tip of the iceberg. The young junior brother in front of him was not only far stronger than what he had shown himself to be, but his thoughtfulness and depth of intelligence were also far beyond what ordinary people could compare to. The most important thing is that he is actually proficient in the way of talisman formation. When Chu Jianqiu first took out the escape talisman, Lianzhu really thought that he just had some adventures and occasionally obtained these magical talismans, but when Chu Jianqiu used these spiritual talismans with an indifferent attitude, Lianzhu had already guessed that these spiritual talismans might have been refined by Chu Jianqiu himself. At this time, when Chu Jianqiu took out these array discs again, Lianzhu was even more surprised. Formation is even more difficult to understand than Fu Dao. Although the two have similarities, it is not easy to master both. This is not something that can only be achieved by outstanding talent. To achieve it, you need to work harder than ordinary people. After Chu Jianqiu placed the array, he gently flicked his sleeves. A mysterious aura rose from the place where the array was placed, but it quickly returned to normal. There was no trace of anything different between this place and other places. Strange. After doing all this, Chu Jianqiu clapped his hands and said, "Okay, now you can start working." After saying that, he took out a handful of escape talismans from his arms and distributed them to everyone. facing this sea-forming monster, even if everyone joins forces, it is still very dangerous. With these escape talismans, at least we can have more protection. If Chu Jianqiu wanted these people to help him, he couldn't let them die. He had to give them some means to save their lives. Those people saw that the escape talisman in Chu Jianqiu's hand seemed to be endless. Apart from the joy when they got the escape talisman, they felt jealous in their hearts. Their eyes were burning red, and they wanted to snatch all the talismans from Chu Jianqiu. However, they only thought about this idea. Not to mention that there were witches like Sumeru and violent madmen like Tang Ningxin, the little girl in red, standing next to them. With so many talismans in Chu Jianqiu's hands, they could easily do nothing to Chu Jianqiu. As long as Chu Jianqiu used the escape talisman to escape, they would not be able to touch the edge at all, but what they were waiting for was the crazy revenge of the fourth peak, so even though they were eager for the spiritual talisman on Chu Jianqiu, they could only think about it. Chapter 93 Collecting Medicine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What to do next? Chu Jianqiu looked at Chu Jianqiu and asked, looking at the warm and sunny smile on Chu Jianqiu's face. Chu Jianqiu suddenly felt confident in this action. You go and attract the attention of the sea-transforming monster first, and I'll take the opportunity to pick the heavenly black dragon grass. Chu Jianqiu said with a slight smile. Why are we here to attract the attention of the demonic beast, while you are here to pick the Tianji black dragon grass? Bu Feiyue immediately objected. It is so dangerous to attract the attention of this sea transformation realm monster. If you are not careful, you will be killed. Become the wronged soul under the claws of that monster. Picking the Tianji black dragon grass is a great achievement. Once the picking is successful, the rewards they receive will make them reach the sky in one step. They had nothing to do with Chu Jianqiu, so why would they do such a thankless job and give Chu Jianqiu such a huge credit? Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but frown slightly. If his plan hadn't succeeded only once, he would have wanted these ungrateful people to try it themselves, but before Chu Jianqiu could say anything, Chu Jianqiu's cold gaze swept over him and said coldly, So, you have any objections, that this Tianji black dragon grass is related to the life and death of the master? How can she allow others to affect this operation? Bu Feiyue just wanted to continue to refute. Although Chu Jianqiu was powerful, she was already in a self-proclaimed realm, and her strength was not much higher than theirs. On their side, except for him and Yan Junbai, there are several strong ones among the inner disciples. If they really want to take action, they may not lose to Chu Jianqiu, and the key point is that Chu Jianqiu still needs help from them when it comes to picking Tianji black dragon grass. However, at this moment, a gentleman wearing a mysterious robe next to him gave Bu Feiyue a look. Upon seeing this, Bu Feiyue immediately took back his words. This gentleman wearing a mysterious robe is called Wan Guanghui. He is ranked 23rd on the list of inner disciples. He is a good friend of Sifengpe. This man is not only powerful but also resourceful. Sometimes even Sifengpe is in the capital follow his advice. The reason why Bu Feiyue had the confidence to challenge Chu Jianqiu just now was because this person was by his side. Wan Guanghui has already been favored by Li Yuanqing, the master of the second peak. As long as he can break through the sea realm, it is almost certain that he will become a direct disciple. The second peak and the fourth peak have always been at odds, so there is no need to give Chu Jianqiu and Chu Jianqiu face. Naturally, Chu Jianqiu couldn't escape Chu Jianqiu's gaze at this scene, and he couldn't help but feel a bit wary of Wan Guanghui. This person's aura was as deep as the sea, and he couldn't tell the depth, and it gave him a feeling of great threat. This kind of danger, the feeling is especially superior to Ouyang Yuan's. Wan Guanghui met Chu Jianqiu's gaze and raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing a faint smile. After Chu Jianqiu established his own realm, although his strength was still strong, in his eyes, he could no longer make any big waves. As for Tang Ningxin, she was just a stupid girl who hadn't grown up yet. In addition to her brute strength, Wan Guanghui didn't take it seriously at all. The game of Xianxia's secret realm should have been dominated by him from the moment everyone entered. However, after seeing Chu Jianqiu, Wan Guanghui became somewhat interested. This boy seemed to be able to play a bit. Chu Jianqiu didn't pay too much attention to Wan Guanghui's schemes. For him, as long as he collected the Tianji black dragon grass, his goal has been achieved. As for what other people want to make trouble, he doesn't bother to care about it, as long as it doesn't cause trouble on his head, but if these people provoke him out of spite, Chu Jianqiu will not be polite to them. Zhuqiu Lianzhu led more than 20 strong men at the 9th level of the true Qi realm up the mountain again and fought with the Sea Transformation realm monster. When the big demon saw these people bothering it endlessly, it became extremely angry. It roared wildly and smacked down everyone with its huge claws. However, since there were more warriors joining forces this time, and they also had Chu Jianqiu's spiritual talisman, these warriors were confident, and they were in a neck-and-neck fight with the sea-transforming monster. Chu Jianqiu waited until everyone went up the mountain. He waved his right hand lightly and a piece of armor appeared in his palm. It was the Python Tianlin armor that Xue Lian exchanged for. Chu Jianqiu put on the Python Tianlin armor, then took out the wind-controlling boots and put them on. The next person he faced was the great monster of the sea transformation realm. Without any carelessness, Chu Jianqiu tried his best to use all the armors he could use. After putting on the Python Tianlin armor and wind-controlling boots, Chu Jianqiu took out 2 magical talismans and slapped them on his thighs. The 2 spiritual talismans turned into a stream of light and penetrated into his body. After thinking about it for a while, Chu Jianqiu was still not satisfied and used another top-grade power-enhancing talisman. After preparing all this, Chu Jianqiu saw an opportunity, crushed the escape talisman, appeared out of thin air near the Tianji black dragon grass, and reached out to pick the 4th level elixir. The 4th level elixir itself contains huge spiritual energy. When it absorbs the essence of heaven and earth, it gathers huge energy around it. Picking the 4th level elixir is not an easy task. Even under normal conditions, it must be prevented from leaving the earth. A moment of backlash, not to mention having to guard against the attack of the sea-transforming monster next to him. The moment Chu Jianqiu appeared, he used 3 golden shield talismans in succession. These 3 golden shield talismans are all top-grade golden shield talismans. Each golden shield talisman can lay down 4 golden shields. 3 golden shield talismans instantly place 12 golden shields around Chu Jianqiu's body, firmly protecting Chu Jianqiu inside. Chu Jianqiu did not dare to be negligent at all, and used the 7th palm of the 7-fold palm of furious waves to fully open the energy shield around the Tianji black dragon grass, and plucked the heavenly Ji black dragon grass. From appearing to placing charms to collecting herbs, these actions are like lightning and flint, all done in one go. The sea transformation realm monster had already reacted the moment Chu Jianqiu appeared. However, Zhuqiu Lianzhu, Tang Ningxin and others saw Chu Jianqiu's movements and immediately tried their best to contain the sea transformation realm monster. This action bought Chu Jianqiu that moment of time. The sea transforming monster instantly let out a thundering roar, no longer paying attention to the attacks from Zhuqiu Lianzhu and others, and smacked down Chu Jianqiu with its huge sharp claws. Chu Jianqiu had just put the Tianji black dragon grass into the Chaos Supreme Tower. At this time, he had no time to use the escape talisman to escape. He had no choice but to use the 7th palm of the furious wave's 7-fold palm to meet the sharp claw with all his strength. Boom boom boom, that there were loud noises like thunder, and the 12 golden shields formed by the 3 golden shield talismans were shattered one after another, but they still could not stop the sharp claw from being shot. Boom! Chu Jianqiu's palms collided with the sharp claws of the big demon, and he flew out like a kite with a broken string. The Python Tianlin armor on his body was shattered into pieces, and blood spurted out from his mouth. Chapter 94 Got it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although he was blocked by 12 golden shields and protected by the giant Python Tianlin armor, Chu Jianqiu was still severely injured by the attack of the sea-transforming monster. If he hadn't cultivated a supreme martial body, his physical body would be extremely powerful. This blow is enough to kill him. Of course, he was able to withstand this blow only because the protection of the 12 golden shields and the great Python Tianlin armor reduced at least half of the force of the sea-changing monster's blow, and he could barely rely on his physical body. The strength to hold on. After Chu Jianqiu flew out, the sea transformation realm demon Yu refused to give up and followed him like a shadow. This Tianji black dragon grass is its hope to break through to the 2nd level of the sea transformation realm. how can it be allowed to be taken away by others? At this time, its heart was full of regrets. If it had known that this would happen, it would have swallowed the Tianji black dragon grass long ago. Even if the time was not yet ripe, it would have been better than falling into the hands of these humans. Originally, it didn't pay much attention to these human warriors. Even if a group of ants at the 9th level of the true Qi realm could bring some trouble to it, it would be almost impossible to pick the heavenly black dragon grass under its nose. Impossible things, even at this moment, although the sea transformation realm monster was angry, he was not in a hurry. Even if Chu Jianqiu picked the Tianji black dragon grass, could he still escape under its nose? Although the sea-forming monster was extremely fast, Chu Jianqiu still got a chance to breathe when he was shot away. Before the sea-forming monster arrived, his figure disappeared instantly and appeared on the mountain. Underfoot. Seeing this, the sea transformation realm monster once again let out a thundering roar, dodged, and followed closely. The speed was as fast as wind and thunder, and it arrived almost as soon as Chu Jianqiu appeared, but when it caught up to Chu Jianqiu again, its eyes blurred, and the scenery in front of it changed instantly. In front of it was a vast and endless wasteland, with endless grass stretching to the horizon, and the familiar Xianlong mountain was still there. The sea transformation realm monster couldn't help but panic. It had never encountered such a situation in the hundreds of years since it was born. It was so frantic that it let out waves of thundering roars and spread its wings to fly quickly in this endless wasteland. But no matter how it flies, it can't see the end of this wasteland. Zhuqiu and others saw the sea-transforming monster flying rapidly in circles within a range of several hundred feet. They felt funny and surprised at the same time. The methods of the talisman formation master were really weird. A majestic sea transformation realm monster was trapped in the formation, and it was still like this. If it were them, the end would be even worse. When Luan Guanghui saw this scene, his eyes showed a rare look of solemnity. A formation capable of trapping a sea-transforming monster would definitely not be of a low grade. Chu Jianqiu's formation attainments were probably not trivial. Seeing that Chu Jianqiu used formations to trap the sea-transforming monster, everyone was relieved. Even though they had so many strong men joining forces, facing this unusual sea transformation realm monster, the pressure was not easy at all. Zhuqiu's brows were filled with joy. After working hard for so long, she finally completed this task, and a big stone in her heart was immediately relieved. With this Tianji black dragon grass, Master's poisonous injuries are finally guaranteed to be rescued. Zhuqiu walked towards the formation, wanting to meet Chu Jianqiu. She saw with her own eyes that Chu Jianqiu was slapped with a claw by the sea transformation realm monster. The power of this claw was probably difficult for Chu Jianqiu, a warrior at the 4th level of the true Qi realm, even for her. Bear it. So although Zhuqiu was happy that he finally picked the Tianji black dragon grass, his heart was also full of worries. If Chu Jianqiu paid his life for this, even if he picked the Tianji black dragon grass, it would not be the same. Something to be thankful for, but when she approached the formation, Chu Jianqiu had already withdrawn from the formation, and said anxiously to everyone, "Everyone, hurry up, this formation can't trap this big monster for long." As he said that, he took the lead and headed towards the formation. He started running in the direction of return. Everyone was stunned and hurriedly followed. A stick of incense later, a series of devastating explosions exploded at the foot of Xianlong mountain. Deep pits dozens of feet wide appeared on the ground, leaving a mess within a mile. After the sea transformation realm monster rampaged for a while, seeing that it could not fly out of the unfamiliar wasteland, it became angry and attacked the world with all its strength. Under the impact of those terrifying forces, the formation arranged by Chu Jianqiu was finally broken through by it. The endless wasteland disappeared from its eyes, but the familiar Xianlong mountain appeared in front of it again. However, this attack also made the sea-transforming monster pay a huge price, and almost half of the true energy in his body was consumed. Looking at the empty Xianlong mountain all around, those hateful human warriors had already disappeared without a trace with the Tianji Xianlong grass, and the sea transformation realm great demon couldn't help but let out an extremely unwilling roar. However, although the Tianji black dragon grass was taken away by those human warriors, the Sea Transformation Realm Great Demon still did not leave Black Dragon Mountain. Xianlong Mountain can breed 4th-level elixirs such as Tianji Xianlong Grass. It is itself a treasure land with extremely rich spiritual energy. In the roots of Xianlong Mountain, there is a spiritual vein of extremely extraordinary rank, although the loss of the Tianji Black Dragon Grass has greatly slowed down its promotion to the 2nd level of the Sea Transformation Realm. With the spiritual vein in Xianlong Mountain, it can still advance to the 2nd level of the Sea Transformation Realm, but the speed is much slower. Even though everyone was far away from Xianlong Mountain, they could still feel the terrifying vibration, and their faces couldn't help but change color. Fortunately, Chu Jianqiu used the formation to trap the Sea Transformation Realm monster, otherwise he would have gone crazy in the face of this. As a great monster in the Sea Realm, I'm afraid they will suffer heavy casualties. Zhuqiu was still worried about Chu Jianqiu's injury. She looked at Chu Jianqiu and asked doubtfully, "Junior brother is really okay?" If Chu Jianqiu was left with serious hidden dangers because of this incident, she would be left with it in her heart for the rest of her life. Of grudge, Chu Jianqiu could naturally feel Zhuqiu's sincere care. Chu Jianqiu felt warm in his heart but also felt a little helpless. He looked at Zhuqiu and chuckled, "Then do you want me to strip naked for senior sister?" "Take a look." Zhuqiu's face couldn't help but blush when he heard this, and he scolded in embarrassment, "Shameless, where did you learn these glib words?" The little girl in red crossed her arms across her chest, watching the two of them sneer constantly. "Pretend, you can just pretend." Zhuqiu was even more embarrassed and shouted, "Tang Ningxin, why are you laughing?" The little girl in red turned her head and sneered, "I'm laughing at you, it's none of your business Zhuqiu, please be lenient." Chapter 95 Escape. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhuqiu glanced at Chu Jianqiu suspiciously, and felt a little relieved when he saw that although Chu Jianqiu's clothes were torn and covered in blood, he did not seem to be seriously injured. The big python Tianlin armor on Chu Jianqiu's body was already in pieces and was thrown away by him halfway. After calculating the price of this action, Chu Jianqiu was so heartbroken that he almost bled. This python Tianlin armor worth 3,000 contribution points was scrapped after being used only once. The refining of the maze array cost Chu Jianqiu more than 20,000 contribution points, including the piece of phantom soul wood that Ma Jingyao exchanged. However, thanks to Ma Jingyao's piece of phantom soul wood, the level of this maze array was raised to the 3rd level, and it was able to trap the Sea Transformation Realm demon for a moment. In addition to the python Tianlin armor and the maze formation, Chu Jianqiu also spent countless spiritual talismans in this operation. Chu Jianqiu made a rough calculation and found that these spent spiritual talismans were worth at least tens of thousands of contribution points. "This time I really lost my grandma's house." As for the injuries sustained on his body, they were secondary. Although the claws of the sea-transforming monster were extremely powerful, he was still able to resist it after being protected by 12 golden shields and python celestial armor. With his supreme martial body's terrifying recovery ability, he can recover quickly as long as the injuries he suffers do not exceed his endurance limit. Moreover, after the battle with the blood python, Chu Jianqiu also had a deeper understanding of his supreme martial body. As long as the qi and blood in his body did not exhaust, the recovery ability of his supreme martial body would not be affected. So when entering the Xianxia secret realm this time, Chu Jianqiu also refined a large amount of strong blood pills. In the process of escaping, Chu Jianqiu had already swallowed a large amount of strong blood pills and 9-turn moistening pills. With the powerful medicinal power of these 2 pills and the powerful recovery ability of the supreme martial body, although only a stick of incense has passed, but there are no obvious injuries on Chu Jianqiu's body. Of course, the internal injuries cannot recover as quickly as the superficial injuries, but they will not have a big impact on him. Everyone ran quickly for a day, hundreds of miles away from Xianlong Mountain, and then stopped to rest. At this time, the night is getting darker. Except for some people who have been arranged to take turns to watch the night, everyone else is taking the time to rest. In the battle with the sea-transforming monster, everyone suffered a lot of losses. If they don't seize the time to recover and encounter danger again, it will be extremely troublesome. As for the Tianji black dragon grass on Chu Jianqiu, no one mentioned it at this time, because everyone knew it well, and once this matter was mentioned, everyone would inevitably become alienated. The reward for the mission of Tianji Black Dragon Grass is really too tempting. 500,000 contribution points and the identity of a direct disciple are enough to make any Black Sword sect disciple go crazy. During the operation of picking Tianji Black Dragon Grass, although Chu Jianqiu had the greatest contribution, everyone also saw the scene of Chu Jianqiu resisting the attack of the Sea Transformation Realm monster. If it were any one of them, it is really not possible to survive from the claws of the Sea Transformation Realm monster. Moreover, Chu Jianqiu used a formation to trap the Sea Transformation Realm monster, which also gave everyone a chance to escape. However, they also believed that without their restraint on the Sea Transformation Realm monster, Chu Jianqiu would. It was also impossible to pick the Tianji Black Dragon Grass. Even if the majority of the credit went to Chu Jianqiu, at least they should get a share of these benefits. Moreover, Chu Jianqiu was already his direct disciple, so he should give up this credit. Zhuqiu Lianzhu naturally saw everyone's thoughts, so even though she didn't know where Chu Jianqiu put the Tianji Black Dragon Grass, she didn't ask at all. She always felt that Chu Jianqiu had a big secret hidden in him. Putting Tianji Black Dragon Grass on Chu Jianqiu would be safer than putting it on herself. Chu Jianqiu didn't care at all about the twists and turns of those disciples. Once the Tianji Black Dragon Grass was in his hands, it was simply impossible for him to hand it over again. Only when he leaves the Xianxia secret realm can he hand over the Tianji Black Dragon Grass. Here, he simply cannot trust these people. Chu Jianqiu sat cross-legged and adjusted his breathing. After this battle, Chu Jianqiu found that his realm had become a little more solidified. It seemed that the battle was of great help in practicing the Chaos Heavenly Emperor technique. Moreover, the realm that is improved during the battle is more solid. Not only does it not have the hidden dangers of using elixirs, but it also has huge benefits for the solid foundation of one's own. This discovery made Chu Jianqiu's mind become active. It seemed that in the future, cultivation could not rely solely on refining the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. A large number of battles were also essential. Seeing the solidification of his realm, Chu Jianqiu began to take chi-gathering pills with confidence again. As long as he can keep fighting, he doesn't have to worry about the hidden dangers caused by taking too many pills. Hey, what are you eating? Let me try some of them. The little girl in red couldn't help but see Chu Jianqiu chewing each piece of food until it was crunchy. Swallowing, he stretched out his hand to ask Chu Jianqiu. Chu Jianqiu glanced at her and continued chewing the chi-gathering pill. The little girl in red suddenly said angrily, "Are you deaf? Didn't you hear me? Are you looking for a beating?" Zhuqiu Lianzhu sneered and said, "Tang Ningxin, you are really itchy after not being beaten for 3 days. How dare you be so rude to our junior brother at the 4th peak?" The fierce momentum of the little girl in red weakened instantly. After all, she was still a little afraid of Zhuqiu Lianzhu. She had suffered a lot at the hands of Zhuqiu Lianzhu, but there was no way to vent the anger in my heart, and I muttered in a low voice, "What a couple of adulterers and adulterers," but they were really in love with each other. Although Zhuqiu Lianzhu heard the muttering of the little girl in red, she pretended not to hear it. To be honest, at this self-proclaimed level, her strength is not much higher than that of Tang Ningxin. In a real fight, there is no telling who will win. The reason why she is still able to intimidate Tang Ningxin now is just relying on her previous power. Moreover, she and Tang Ningxin are now considered allies, so it is impossible for them to really get into a dispute over this trivial matter. Moreover, the relationship between the 4th peak and the 7th peak has always been good, and the disputes between her and Tang Ningxin were mostly verbal, and they really didn't have a few physical fights. Chu Jianqiu ignored the argument between the two little girls and continued to eat his own chi-gathering pill. Although he has picked the Tianji Black Dragon Grass, Chu Jianqiu still has not relaxed his efforts to improve his realm. In this crisis-ridden environment, if he can improve his strength a little more, he will have a better chance of survival. Chapter 96 I will be your wife from now on. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Even though Chu Jianqiu was able to collect the heavenly black dragon grass from the great demon of the sea transformation realm, without resorting to other trump cards, he couldn't even beat Tang Ningxin by just using his strength, let alone the unpredictable one. Wuan Guanghui, when Chu Jianqiu was about to take out the chi-gathering pills from the bag in his hand, suddenly a red shadow flashed in front of his eyes, and with a flick of his hand, the bag filled with qi-gathering pills disappeared without a trace. Chu Jianqiu looked at his empty hands and was stunned for a moment. He looked up and saw Tang Ningxin holding his bag and looking at him proudly. Seeing this scene, Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but feel helpless. He didn't agree to Tang Ningxin's request. First of all, he didn't want to spoil her, lest she keep yelling at him. Although Chu Jianqiu was not as experienced as a little girl, but after all, I still felt a little unhappy. This little girl had punched him indiscriminately as soon as she came up. If it weren't for the fact that her strength was far superior to that of ordinary people in the same situation, she would have been disabled by that punch. Secondly, Chu Jianqiu didn't want everyone to know that she was taking the qi-gathering pill. With Tang Ningxin's carefree temperament, once she found out about it, she wouldn't even be able to cover it up, but he didn't expect that if he didn't give it to her, she would take it by force. Tang Ningxin proudly opened Chu Jianqiu's bag and took out a handful of the contents. She was surprised when she saw that what she took out was actually a handful of qi-gathering pills. Could it be that all this guy has been eating are these qi-gathering pills? Tang Ningxin opened the entire bag and saw that the entire bag was filled with qi-gathering pills. Tang Ningxin couldn't help but take a breath of air. How could the fourth peak be so rich that they could eat qi-gathering pills like jelly beans? Chu Jianqiu glanced at Tang Ningxin and took out a cloth bag from his arms. It seems that he took these things out of his arms, but in fact they were all taken out from the Chaos Supreme Tower. This extra action is just a cover-up to cover up the existence of the Chaos Supreme Tower. Chu Jianqiu ate the qi-gathering pills by himself, and ignored the bag that Tang Ningxin snatched away. He would not argue with this crazy girl over a bag of qi-gathering pills, even though the quantity of the qi-gathering pills in the bag was not less. When Tang Ningxin saw this scene, her heart suddenly became unbalanced. Even as a direct disciple of the seventh peak, the resources she received were limited. The training resources she usually received were far from being able to meet her training needs, especially herself. The bloodline qualifications and the skills they practice require far more resources than ordinary warriors. If there were sufficient resources for her to practice, her cultivation speed would be much higher than the current level. However, the huge amount of resources consumed by Tang Ningxin's cultivation is a headache for even Qin Miaoyan. As a small warrior at the 9th level of the true Qi realm, the resources she consumes on a daily basis are comparable to some disciples of the Sea Transformation realm. Qin Miaoyan is not the only one. As a disciple like her, it is naturally impossible for her to spend all her resources on her. Even if she has a tendency, she should not show too much bias. After all, the huge Xianxia sect spends extremely huge resources every day, and the resources allocated to each peak are also limited. Compared with the inner and outer disciples, the resources allocated to them, the direct disciples, are already better. More than a little bit, BSP, Tang Ningxin saw that Chu Jianqiu had lost the bag of qi-gathering pills, but she didn't seem to care at all. Her eyes couldn't help but roll around. This is a rich man. If he can get close to such a rich man, there is no need to worry about future cultivation resources at all. Tang Ningxin trotted up, sat down next to Chu Jianqiu with a smile on her face, and said with saliva, "Brother, do you still want to accept the younger brother?" But when Chu Jianqiu heard this, he was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but look at Tang Ningxin warily. What kind of trick did this crazy girl want to do? Her style of painting changed too quickly. Zhuqiu was shocked when she saw this scene. Is this still the Tang Ningxin she knew? When Tang Ningxin saw the suspicious look in Chu Jianqiu's eyes, she immediately slapped her small breasts loudly and vowed, "Brother, don't worry, as long as you accept me as your younger brother, from now on, if you just say a word from me, I promise to go through fire and water, no matter what. Whoever Big Brother asks me to beat up, I will beat the shit out of him. I guarantee that I will be Big Brother's most qualified thug." When Chu Jianqiu saw Tang Ningxin's appearance, he became even more wary. He didn't know what this crazy girl was going to do. If he suddenly punched himself again when he let down his guard, it would not be a very comfortable thing. It's just that when I was acting as the younger brother, I got some points from him with these qi-gathering pills. Tang Ningxin's little face was filled with a flattering smile. Only then did Chu Jianqiu suddenly realize that he was targeting his qi-gathering pill. No wonder he suddenly became so dishonest. Chu Jianqiu looked her up and down. When Tang Ningxin saw Chu Jianqiu's eyes looking over, she immediately stretched out her pink fist and waved it, and shouted, "Brother, don't worry, he will be a qualified younger brother." Chu Jianqiu touched his chin. If he could buy such a powerful thug with some qi-gathering pills, it seemed like a pretty good deal. After learning the Dan talisman formation, Chu Jianqiu had no shortage of qi-gathering pills at all. The qi-gathering pills refined using the Dan talisman formation were not only of high quality, but also extremely efficient, and the cost was much higher than those refined using ordinary methods. The qi-gathering pill should be low. In Chu Jianqiu's place, these basic elixirs, like those magical talismans, are all commonplace and can be refined at any time as long as the materials are available. When Tang Ningxin saw Chu Jianqiu's brooding look, she couldn't help but feel uneasy. Finally, she felt relieved and said, "If you don't want my younger brother, I can be your wife." What's so good about Sumeru Lianzhu? Don't look at it. She looks gentle on the surface, but she is actually very fierce. I will be your daughter-in-law, and I promise to be better than her. Chu Jianqiu couldn't help crying or laughing. Such a little girl probably didn't even know what a daughter-in-law meant, so she just talked about it casually. Sumeru Lianzhu crossed his arms and said with disdain, "Idiot, you know what a wife is, but you are the only one who can be someone else's wife." Tang Ningxin's face instantly turned red and she said angrily, "Why didn't I know that when I became someone's wife, you were still playing in the mud? You know nothing. Chu Jianqiu, I will be your wife from now on. What will happen next? Husband and wife share blessings and hardships together." Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but have a headache. All these things are happening here and there. He quickly waved his hands and said, come on, you will be my little brother from now on. If I have the qi-gathering pill from now on, you will be indispensable." That if word got out that this little girl was going to be his wife, wouldn't it mean that others would laugh out loud, and I'm afraid Qin Miaoyan, the leader of the 7th peak, would tear her alive. Chapter 97 Someone Comes on a Moonlit Night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tang Ningxin was furious and said, "Why, you look down on me, but I want to be your wife." Chu Jianqiu was extremely confused. He didn't want to get involved with this crazy girl who had no idea. If he continued to get involved, he didn't know what kind of jokes he would make. He quickly handed over the bag of qi-gathering pills in his hand. He looked at Tang Ningxin, rubbed Tang Ningxin's little head and said, "Good boy, stop making trouble." Tang Ningxin grabbed the bag and angrily took out a handful of qi-gathering pills and threw them into her mouth and started chewing them. While eating, she said vaguely, "That's pretty much it." Tan Yoxin and other girls from the Baifeng society looked at this scene, surprised and amused at the same time. They had long heard about the strange temperament of the little girl in red from 7th Peak. When they saw her today, she was indeed well-deserved. At the same time, Tan Yoxin and others were also secretly envious. The direct disciples were different. They could eat qi-gathering pills as jelly beans. However, although they were envious, they were not as bold as Tang Ningxin, who shouted that she wanted to be Chu Jianqiu's wife. Although others may think Tang Ningxin is a bit ridiculous when she does this, she is still young and doesn't understand this kind of thing at all, so others won't take her seriously. If they did the same thing, not to mention it would attract disdain from others, and I am afraid that Chu Jianqiu would not give them the qi-gathering pill like he did to Tang Ningxin. At this time, Sumeru Lianzhu also discovered that the things Chu Jianqiu had eaten before were actually qi-gathering pills. The 2 bags of qi-gathering pills that Tang Ningxin took away from him contained hundreds of pills at least. Looking at him like that, these hundreds of qi-gathering pills were nothing to him. Moreover, Chu Jianqiu was able to eat qi-gathering pills like jelly beans before, so it was obvious that he was not short of qi-gathering pills. Where did this guy get so many qi-gathering pills? Although the 4th peak has very few disciples, relatively speaking, the resources each person gets are much richer than the disciples of the other 6 peaks, but they are not luxurious enough to be able to gather qi. Dandang is like eating jelly beans. However, when I thought of Chu Jianqiu's identity as the talisman master, I felt relieved again. An ordinary talisman master might not be as rich as Chu Jianqiu, but the talismans refined by Chu Jianqiu are all rare and precious, it's just a power-increasing talisman. There are still people in the Xianxia sect who can refine this common talisman. However, even in the entire Dacian dynasty, no one who can refine such an amazing talisman as the escape talisman can be found. A few of them don't have the ability to refine it, but they don't have this precious rune. Being able to refine such rare spiritual talismans, it would be difficult for Chu Jianqiu not to be rich. Lianzhu estimated that he was not as rich as Chu Jianqiu. Regarding Chu Jianqiu's behavior, Lianzhu didn't say much. Anyway, if he had enough qi-gathering pills, she would be too lazy to give them to whomever he wanted. Moreover, there was no real enmity between her and Tang Ningxin, so how could she care about these things? Tang Ningxin sat on the big rock next to Chu Jianqiu, eating the qi-gathering pill and gently swinging her legs. Her face was full of joy and satisfaction, just like those little girls who got candy. Lianzhu also leaned on the big stone and closed his eyes to rest. Suddenly, Lianzhu and Chu Jianqiu opened their eyes almost at the same time, turned their heads and looked to the west. Under the moonlit night, two figures rushed over quickly. "Who is here?" "The disciple on night duty," he shouted loudly. "But senior brother Zhao." The two figures heard the shouts and said with great joy. The disciple on night duty was stunned when he heard this and asked, "But junior brother Shui and junior brother Ma?" "It's us." The two figures replied. The night watch disciple surnamed Zhao put down his guard and said, "You two junior brothers are so late, where are you going?" The two figures stepped forward. Chu Jianqiu turned around and saw that they were indeed Shui Lian and Ma Jingyao. After not seeing each other for a while, these two people have made another breakthrough in their realm. They have actually reached the 9th level of the true Qi realm. This speed of advancement is really shocking. It seems that the two of them had a lot of opportunities in the Eastern Wilderness secret realm at that time. The giant python Tianlin armor and wind-controlling boots that were exchanged for talismans were probably nothing at all among the opportunities they got. It's too late to talk to my senior brother in detail. Everyone, please be prepared. People from the Blood Evil sect are about to catch up. Shui Lian said hurriedly. When everyone heard this, their hearts trembled, and the disciples who were still sitting cross-legged and regulating their breaths all stood up one after another, on full alert. After entering the secret realm of Xianxia for so long, almost all of them have met the disciples of the Blood Evil sect. They are well aware of the power of the blood-robed warriors of the Blood Evil sect and do not dare to take them lightly. Sure enough, as soon as Shui Lian finished speaking, a group of warriors wearing blood robes appeared one after another in the west direction. There were 30 or 40 of these blood-robe warriors. Most of them were at the 9th level of the true Qi realm. Headed by the man was a man with a rough face, exuding a fierce murderous aura. The blood-robed warrior with a rough face walked forward expressionlessly, pointed at Shui Lian and Ma Jingyao, and said coldly, "Hand them over, and I will spare your life." Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but feel surprised. What on earth did these two guys do that was so outrageous that they actually attracted so many blood-robed warriors from the Blood Evil sect to pursue them? Moreover, the blood-robed warrior who always fought to the death with the disciples of Xianxia sect as soon as they met, this time actually only wanted to let the two of them live, and let the others live. This is really rare. Tang Ningxin wiped her mouth, jumped down from the boulder, walked forward, held her head high and said, "Who are you? If you want us to make friends, you can make friends with us, let us live, and you won't be afraid of flashing your tongue when you talk big. It's still hard to say whether we should let you go or not." The savage-faced blood-robed warrior's eyes flashed with a stern look, and everyone's eyes were blurred. The bloody figure had already arrived in front of Tang Ningxin, and a bloody palm pressed down on Tang Ningxin's head along with the blood shadow in the sky. The blood-robed warrior with a rough face was merciless when he struck, and he wanted to kill Tang Ningxin with one strike. With his status, no one had ever dared to speak to him like this, and how could he endure Tang Ningxin's provocation to him? Boom! A thunderous sound exploded in everyone's ears, and the aftermath of the impact caused violent air waves. The palm of the blood-robed warrior with a rough face did not achieve the expected effect. The blood-red palm was blocked by a small pink fist, making it difficult to move forward. The face of the rough-looking blood-robed warrior changed color slightly. The strength of this little girl was a bit beyond his imagination. With his strength, he was also a well-known figure in the Blood Evil sect. Those who met before were at the 9th level of the true Qi realm. A disciple of the Xianxia sect couldn't take a slap from him at all, but this little girl was able to match him in that slap just now, which really surprised him. Chapter 98. As long as the couple knows it in private. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tang Ningxin shouted, "Try to punch me too." As she said that, she retracted her pink fist and punched out again. Bump. There was a loud noise, and the blood-robed warrior with a rough face was actually punched away. Tang Ningxin retracted her fist, made a movement that made her Dantian angry, turned to Chu Jianqiu and smiled brightly. "How about it, Chu Jianqiu, now that you have me as your daughter-in-law, you feel a lot more at ease instantly." Chu Jianqiu felt a headache, reached out and knocked Tang Ningxin on the head, and said, "You are not allowed to claim to be my wife in the future, otherwise, there will be no qi-gathering pill in the future." Upon hearing this, Tang Ningxin waved by Xingxing's little hand and said nonchalantly, "Come on, since you don't like to be called like that, then I won't call you like that in the future, as long as the two of us know it privately." Chu Jianqiu bared his teeth and felt a headache. Why didn't this little girl get her ideas straight? Xue Lian and Ma Jingyao were shocked when they heard Chu Jianqiu's voice. When they turned to look at Chu Jianqiu, their eyes suddenly showed ecstasy. The two of them were the first group of people to do business with Chu Jianqiu. They survived in the secret realm of Donghuang because of Chu Jianqiu's talisman, and they also got an incredible opportunity. How could they not recognize Chu Jianqiu? But after hearing Tang Ningxin's words, Xue Lian and the two were filled with shock. Brother Qianshui was such a beast, and he could even attack such a small child. The face of the blood-robed warrior with a rough face suddenly turned gloomy. These two people didn't take him seriously. This was a battle situation. Is it appropriate to flirt like this? The blood-robed warrior with a rough face dodged and pounced forward again, but this time it was not Tang Ningxin who attacked, but Chu Jianqiu. Tang Ningxin was too powerful and he was not sure of winning, and Chu Jianqiu is just a waste at the 4th level of the true Qi realm. As long as he takes action, it is not easy to catch him. He must first deal with this pretty boy and let out the bad breath in his heart, but before he could get close to Chu Jianqiu, a red figure blocked him in front of Chu Jianqiu, and a small pink fist hit him head-on. The blood-robed warrior with a rough face was punched away again. Tang Ningxin rubbed her small fists and said with frost on her face, "If you dare to touch my man, you are seeking death." As he spoke, he swayed and punched the rough-faced warrior again. The blood-robed warrior blasted away. Hearing Tang Ningxin's words, Chu Jianqiu put his hand on his forehead, feeling deeply powerless in his heart. This was really getting darker and darker. If this matter spread, he would really be unable to live his life. Zhuqiu Lianzhu crossed his arms across his chest and said with a sneer on his side, "Junior brother, it's okay. I went into the secret realm and picked up a little wife." Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but lament, "Senior sister Zhuqiu, why are you here to join in the fun? It's not like you don't know her temperament. You really take her seriously." In fact, Zhuqiu Lianzhu was 1 or 2 years younger than him, but because he got started first, and Zhuqiu Lianzhu insisted on calling him senior sister, Chu Jianqiu had no choice. Chu Jianqiu really discovered that the reason why Zhuqiu Lianzhu and Tang Ningxin always argued with each other was because their temperaments were somewhat similar. But Zhuqiu Lianzhu was just a little bit more normal than Tang Ningxin. Zhuqiu Lianzhu snorted twice. Although he stopped sarcastic, he was obviously still unhappy. NBS. Bang bang bang, that the bloody robe and the petite red figure fought fiercely, causing the forest to shake and dust to fly. Bang, there was another loud noise, and the two figures suddenly separated. The blood-robed warrior with a rough face had several bruises on his face, and his clothes were ragged, making him look miserable. Although Tang Ningxin's red clothes were a little messy, she was not seriously injured. It was obvious that Tang Ningxin had the upper hand in the confrontation just now. Tang Ningxin rubbed her pink fists and hummed twice, with a proud look on her face. She had just taken a large amount of qi-gathering pills and needed a battle to digest the huge medicinal power in her body. Now that the true energy in her body is extremely abundant, and there is still a large amount of medicinal power that is being converted into a steady stream of true energy. How can the blood-robed warrior with a rough face be her opponent? The rough-faced blood-robed warrior's face was gloomy, and he was extremely angry. In terms of combat power, he was not weaker than Tang Mingxin, but this little girl was very weird, and the energy in her body seemed to never be exhausted. It was only because the true energy in his body was a little weak at the end of the fight that Tang Mingxin took the opportunity to punch him a few times. The blood-robed warrior with a rough face felt that he had suffered unprecedented humiliation. His defeat at the hands of such a 12 or 13-year-old girl was something he simply could not tolerate. Come together and kill them all. The rough-looking blood-robed warrior shouted angrily. He didn't believe that these people were all as powerful as this little girl in red, with their strength and numbers, and based on past experience, they are completely capable of crushing these Xianxia sect warriors. Under the command of the rough-looking blood-robed warrior, the blood-robed warriors immediately surged forward, and the two sides fell into a fierce battle. However, the result was not as overwhelming as the rough-faced blood-robed warrior had expected. The two sides fell into a stalemate, and as the battle progressed, their blood-evil sect actually fell into a disadvantage, and several blood warriors fell into a stalemate. All the robed warriors died at the hands of Xianxia sect disciples. The blood-robed warrior with a rough face was extremely surprised. What kind of people did he encounter today? This was completely unlike the combat power of the Xianxia sect disciples in the past, but he didn't know that even the weakest disciple among this group of people was still among the top 100 strongest disciples in Xianxia sect. These are almost all the top elites among the inner disciples of Xianxia sect. Although the strength of these blood-robed warriors is not weak, there is still a slight gap between them and these top elites of Xianxia sect. Half an hour later, the blood-robed warriors of the blood-evil sect were completely defeated. Under the attack of the Xianxia sect, the casualties had exceeded half. The rough-looking blood-robed warrior looked extremely ugly. Although he was unwilling to do so, he still had to order a retreat. If the battle continued, I'm afraid they would all have to answer here today. Seeing the retreat of the blood-robed warriors, everyone did not pursue the victory. After this battle, although more than half of the blood-robed warriors were annihilated, everyone also paid a lot of price, except for 2 or 3 disciples who lost their lives at the hands of those blood-robed warriors. More than half of the others were also seriously injured. They had not fully recovered from the battle at Xianlong Mountain, and they fought relatively hard in this battle. Hard. If you continue to pursue recklessly, I'm afraid you will have to pay a higher price. Chapter 99 Sumeru Stone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. While everyone was taking care of the battlefield and taking a rest, Shui Lian and Ma Jingyao quietly approached Chu Jianqiu. Brother Tianxue. Shui Lian called quietly, looking sneaky. Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but be stunned. This guy really recognized him. Did this senior brother recognize the wrong person? My name is Chu Jianqiu, not Brother Tianxue. Chu Jianqiu said calmly. When Shui Lian saw that Chu Jianqiu refused to admit it, he immediately became anxious and said, Brother Tianxue, please stop hiding it. I heard your voice right away. I have something important to discuss with Brother Tianxue. That when Chu Jianqiu heard what he said, he could only ask, what do you want from me? Anyway, his identity as a spiritual talisman master has been exposed. Someone should have guessed that these spiritual talismans were refined by him. If this identity is concealed any longer, there is no great need. Brother Tianxue, do you still have those spiritual talismans for sale, especially the escape talismans? Shui Lian was overjoyed when he saw Chu Jianqiu's admission. He was finally saved. Chu Jianqiu glanced at him and said, there are spiritual talismans, but the price. Shui Lian said quickly, I know, the escape talisman has a contribution value of 1,000 points, the golden shield talisman has a contribution value of 300 points, the strengthening talisman has a contribution value of 500 points. This was not his first business deal with Chu Jianqiu. Naturally, I am no stranger to the prices of these talismans. Chu Jianqiu waved his hand and interrupted him, that's the price outside the secret realm. In this case, the selling price cannot be the same. The contribution value of the flash escape talisman is 5,000 points, and the Golden Shield Talisman is 1,500 points. 2,500 points of Power Talisman. When Xue Liyan heard this, he immediately said with a grimace, "Brother Qianxue, you can't take advantage of the situation and raise the price." Chu Jianqiu was unmoved, waving his hands and saying, "You are taking advantage of the situation. If you buy it, buy it. If you don't buy it, you will be kicked out. It's not like I begged you to buy it." Nonsense, the price of this magic talisman can be the same inside this secret realm as outside it. Outside the secret realm, he can use his contribution points to continuously exchange materials for refining spiritual talismans, but inside, his spiritual talismans are also limited. Although the number of spiritual talismans he prepared before entering the secret realm was huge, it would be no problem if he used it himself, but if it were to be sold, there were so many Xianxia sect disciples in the secret realm. If everyone wanted to buy from him, he would, no matter how many talismans there are, they are not enough to sell. Setting the price of the spiritual talisman higher will at least deter the vast majority of disciples. 5,000 contribution points is a huge amount of wealth even for a disciple at the 9th level of the true Qi realm. Xue Liyan suddenly shivered. The tone of his words was indeed very Brother Qianxue, but he still wanted to struggle. After all, 5,000 contribution points for a flash escape talisman was too expensive. "Brother Qianxue, for the sake of old customers, can't we make it cheaper?" Xue Liyan still refused to give up. Chu Jianqiu glanced at him and said, "I only sold it to you for the sake of old customers. If it were anyone else, I wouldn't sell it. Here, what is the use of contribution points? Life is the most important thing. It's important. If you don't want to buy it, don't waste my time." As he said that, Chu Jianqiu pretended to be angry and waved his hand to drive people away. There must be a lot of good things in these two people, but they are just reluctant to take them out. If they don't deceive him, these two guys will keep hiding them. When Xue Liyan heard this, he quickly smiled and said, "Brother Qianxue, don't be angry, buy it now, buy it now." However, he then said with a bitter face, "Can this be replaced by something else?" This was actually what they had done before they came in. All the contribution points have been replaced by resources, magic weapons, or elixirs. Now he and Ma Jingyao are penniless and can't find any contribution points. During the half-month they entered the secret realm, although they also killed many blood evil sect disciples, these can be converted into contribution points. However, these records cannot be converted into contribution points until they leave the secret realm and return to the sect. Chu Jianqiu smiled slightly and said, "Okay, just like last time, show it to me first. If there is anything I need, after appraising it, I can exchange it for a spiritual talisman of equal value." Although Chu Jianqiu also needs a lot of contribution points, whether he is reading the classics in the Sutra Pavilion, making talismans, setting up formations, or refining elixirs, he needs to consume a lot of resources, and this also requires a lot of contribution points to support, so Chu Jianqiu will never think that his contribution is too valuable, but compared to the contribution value, Chu Jianqiu was more interested in what they had on them. Almost all the things the two of them used to exchange last time had played a huge role. Xue Liyan's Python Tianlin armor played a big role in resisting the attack of the sea-transforming monster, and Ma Jingyao's phantom soul wood. It is also the core material for refining that maze. Xue Liyan raised his head and looked around furtively, and finally whispered, "Brother Qianxue, can you lend me a step to speak?" Although he already knew Chu Jianqiu's real name, Xue Liyan still used to call Chu Jianqiu Brother Qianxue. Chu Jianqiu also took a look around. At this time, they were in the crowd of Xianxia sect disciples. If there was any transaction, everyone would indeed see it. Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but secretly murmur in his heart, what was this guy trying to do sneakily, but he still followed Xue Liyan and the two of them to the side, avoiding the crowd. Tang Ningxin was curious and wanted to follow, but in the end, under the threat of Chu Jianqiu's qi-gathering pill, she had to suppress her curiosity. Seeing the sneaky looks of these three people, Zhuqiu Lianzhu also frowned, but in the end he resisted the urge to find out. After all, she is not a little girl like Tang Ningxin who is completely ignorant of the world. Since Chu Jianqiu doesn't want others to know what they are doing between them, if he doesn't have the sense to pry into the secrets, even though Chu Jianqiu may not say anything on the surface, there will inevitably be estrangement between the two. Sumeru Lianzhu still knew the propriety of some things. When the three of them were about a mile away from the crowd, Chu Jianqiu looked at Xue Lian and said, "Tell me, why should things be so secret?" Xue Lian turned his hand, and a large piece of ore exuding a mysterious aura appeared out of thin air in his palm. After this piece of ore appeared, even the surrounding space experienced faint fluctuations. "Sumi stone," Chu Jianqiu said in shock. Even with his perspective, he was greatly shocked after seeing this piece of ore. Sumi stone is an extremely rare and precious ore. This ore naturally contains the properties of space and is an important material for refining space magic weapons. If it is in the hands of a refiner with space runes, this kind of ore can be said to be a priceless treasure, because space magic weapons are so precious and rare. It is estimated that there are not many space magic weapons in the entire Dacian dynasty. Chapter 100. You can see it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although Chu Jianqiu possesses the huge space magic weapon of the Chaos Supreme Tower, the Chaos Supreme Tower is shady. If he wants to conceal the existence of the Chaos Supreme Tower, Chu Jianqiu must possess the other space magic weapons. Otherwise, if it goes on for a long time, the strangeness will always make people suspicious. Such a large piece of Sumeru stone can be used to create some space magic weapons. As for the space runes needed to refine space magic weapons, this most rare and critical part is the one that Chu Jianqiu needs to worry about least. In the Chaos Supreme Tower, there are almost all the runes in the world, but the runes involving time and space are the most mysterious and unpredictable. Even with Chu Jianqiu's understanding, it is a bit difficult to comprehend those runes. However, Chu Jianqiu is not worried that he will not be able to understand these runes. As his understanding of the talisman array deepens, he will eventually be able to fully understand the runes. What he possesses is the inheritance of the 10,000 source rune arrays. Under the continuous cleaning of the soul by the Chaos Supreme Tower every day, his soul and understanding will grow day by day. It is only a matter of time before he can fully comprehend those time and space runes. Chu Jianqiu also noticed a problem. This Sumeru stone appeared out of thin air in Xue Lian's hands. Chu Jianqiu, who owned the Chaos Supreme Tower, was most familiar with this situation. This was obviously a trace of the use of space magic weapons. Chu Jianqiu glanced at Xue Lian. This guy was hiding quite well. He even had a space magic weapon. It seemed that the opportunity this guy got in the secret realm of the Eastern Wasteland was not simple. Xue Lian gave a thumbs up and said, "Brother Tianxue really has good eyesight." He recognized this as a Sumeru stone at a glance. Chu Jianqiu said with a smile, "Senior brother Xue took out such a valuable thing, wouldn't it be as simple as just changing it for a few spiritual talismans? Sumeru stone is an extremely rare material. Even though there are few refiners in the entire Dacian dynasty who know how to refine space magic weapons, this does not hinder its value. No one would dislike this kind of thing. If it were put up for auction, it could easily sell for a sky-high price. No matter how precious these talismans are, they are still second-level talismans after all, and cannot be compared with this extremely rare material. If I add all the talismans in my hand, I may be able to exchange them for this Sumeru stone. But for individuals, once these magic talismans increase in number, they become less valuable, because no matter what situation a person encounters, it is impossible to spend so many magic talismans. With Xue Lian's shrewdness, he obviously would not engage in such a loss-making business. Xue Lian scratched his head in embarrassment. His intention was revealed by the other party, which really made him a little embarrassed. Xue Lian hesitated for a long time, then waved his hand, and more than 10 large bags suddenly appeared on the ground. As soon as these large bags appeared, the surrounding space was immediately filled with a rich and strange blood-evil aura. This rich blood-evil aura eroded the surrounding vegetation immediately withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. When Chu Jianqiu saw this scene, his heart immediately trembled. Even though he had never seen the blood demonic demon liquid, he knew that what was in these big bags was that thing. This kind of aura was too profound for Chu Jianqiu. Chu Jianqiu had experienced this poisonous aura very deeply from his master Cui Yayun. However, the blood-evil Qingming poison in Chui Yayan was countless times purer than these blood-evil black demonic liquids, and it was also extremely poisonous. Chu Jianqiu glanced at the blood-evil demon liquid on the ground. More than 10 bags of blood demonic demon liquid weigh at least 100 kilograms. If the bounty reward issued by Xianxia sect is followed, 1 kilogram of blood demonic liquid can be exchanged for 1,000 contribution points. That's just the amount of blood on the ground. This blood-evil demon liquid is enough to exchange for more than 100,000 points of contribution points, which is an extremely astonishing wealth. The blood-evil demonic liquid is distributed in various deep mountains and swamps in the Xianxia secret realm. Only the blood-evil sect has the means to detect it. The disciples of the Xianxia sect cannot detect in advance those places where the blood-evil demonic liquid is present, so the Xianxia sect disciples, if you want to get the blood-evil demonic liquid, you must snatch it from the blood-evil sect disciples. This guy had so much blood-evil demonic liquid in his body, and he didn't know how many blood-evil sect disciples he had killed. No wonder those blood-robed warriors hated the two of them so much. However, Chu Jianqiu still underestimated the ability of these two people to get things done. After Xue Lian took out more than 10 bags of Xue Sha Xian demon liquid, he turned his hand and a bead exuding a rich blood-red light appeared in his hand. The blood-evil power emitted by this bloody red bead is more than 10 times stronger than the blood-evil demon liquid. When Chu Jianqiu saw the bloody red bead, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. Now even he had to admire the two people's ability to get things like this. This bloody red bead is the blood-evil red bead formed from the essence of the blood-evil black demonic liquid. Its toxic effect is hundreds of times stronger than the toxicity of the blood-evil black demonic liquid. If you want to refine the blood-evil mysterious demonic liquid into the blood-evil Qingming poison that can threaten the Yuan Dan realm experts, you will need at least 1,000 kilograms of it, and there is a huge probability of failure. But if it is refined with the blood fiend red beads, only 10 of them are enough to refine the blood fiend Qingming poison that can threaten Yuan Dan realm experts. However, it is extremely difficult to obtain this kind of blood-evil chili pearl. Even blood-evil sect disciples have to pay a huge price if they want to obtain this kind of thing. In this mission, Xianxia sect received a bounty reward of a blood fiend red bead reaching 150,000 contribution points, which was second only to receiving the Tianji Xianlong grass. As long as you get more than 3, you can get the same rewards as Tianji black dragon grass. Not only can you get a lot of contribution points, but you can also become a direct disciple of the 7 peaks of black sword. Xue Lian snatched this thing from the disciples of the blood-evil sect. It would be strange if the blood-robed warriors of the blood-evil sect didn't hate him to the bone. This guy has become a thorn in the flesh of the blood-evil sect disciples. He is probably like a rat on the street. Everyone shouted for beating. I think this is not the first time that senior brother Xue has been chased by those blood-robed warriors. Chu Jianqiu glanced at Xue Lian and said. Xue Lian smiled coquettishly and said, for some reason, these disciples of the blood-evil sect have a soft spot for the two of us, and they always bite us. Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but be speechless for a while. These two people were bold enough to dare to do such things to the disciples of the blood-evil sect when they were alone and weak. Then what is senior brother Xue's plan? Chu Jianqiu pointed at the Sumeru stone in Xue Lian's hand. Seeing that business was about to happen, Xue Lian immediately put away the smile on his face and said solemnly, I won't hide it from brother Chu. The two of us have completely provoked the disciples of the blood-evil sect, and now we are being chased by them and running away. Because when it comes to business, he no longer calls Chu Jianqiu brother Tianque. After all, this was Chu Jianqiu's original pseudonym. At other times, he can use it to get closer, but when it comes to business, he naturally calls Chu Jianqiu's brother. Real name, this shows sincerity. Chu Jianqiu nodded and said, I can see it,